Gentle movement is wonderful and really changes everything for the brain and the body. And yes, it makes us feel so much better. I know when I walk and I am connected with the world around me, I feel more at ease. I feel
Yeah.
more peaceful. Yes. And sometimes too, I'll be honest, I'm not always able to get out by myself. Ideally that's happening.
Yeah.
But sometimes the kids come and my kids are at ages now where they can ride their bike or scooter and I push the littlest in a stroller and I'm
Yeah.
still getting that movement in even while yelling, "Get out of the street."
Welcome to Radiant Mom Rising. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and uplifted. I'm your host, Mary Dibble, and in each episode, we dive into amazing stories, insights, and conversations that help moms like you chase your dreams and embrace your worth. Let's rise and shine together. Hey there, moms. Hope you're doing well. Hope your week's going good. Mary Dibble here. Welcome back to another episode of Radiant Mom Rising. I am here hanging out at home with my little one, Cade. Thought I'd have a moment to go ahead and get this recorded. That's kind of how it is as a mom, right? You got to find those pockets where you can work on things for your business or just work on things for yourself. And I've been doing a lot of reflection work here of late, and not just for helping out my clients, but even, what's so neat about this journey is getting to do the work yourself, because there's so much that we all have going on in our lives and within ourselves, healing that we need to work on, just growth, expansion. And so I've been doing a lot of reflection on, gratitude and just really being present. And I love it. I really, really love it. I'm so grateful for shifting my perspective and shifting just my whole life around. Like, so much that has just kept me held back for so long. I had no idea how I was creating my own struggle in my life and my own lack in my life. And I just want to say that this work is truly no joke. I'm honored to not just be learning this for myself, but to be able to utilize what I'm learning and seeing unfold within myself and knowing that I can help others in that way. Because, we do so much as moms. We work our butts off. We sacrifice so much of ourselves in our lives for our children and just to survive. And I feel like enough is enough. I feel like we matter too, and we deserve to want more, to be able to open ourselves up to receive more. And I've been learning a lot about the law of reception and how a lot of times we don't realize that it's already done, but we block it. We block it ourselves because we don't tune into the frequency of receiving, because we don't know how to receive. I mean, think about it, just getting a compliment, right? We don't even know how to accept a compliment a lot of times when someone just says, "Oh, your outfit looks nice," or "Oh, you look beautiful today." And so I just want you to kind of think on that. And I'm excited to get into this episode. It's packed with powerful insights that we all need to hear. My guest, Atara Parkinson, she's a licensed marriage and family therapist with over 14 years of experience. And she's on a mission to help families thrive by bridging the gap between mental and physical health, which is why I love this conversation. Her own journey with health challenges led her to discover the profound impact of nutrition, movement, and minerals on mental well being. And let's be real, as busy moms, we often put ourselves last when it comes to health, grabbing quick meals, running on empty, and feeling disconnected from our own needs. But what if small intentional changes could transform not only your energy levels, but also your relationships? So, in this episode, we're going to dive into simple, effective ways that you can start nourishing your body, improve your mental clarity, and build stronger family connections. You're going to walk away with some practical tips to fuel your health, strengthen your marriage, and create a balanced lifestyle, one that truly supports you. So let's get into it. Without further ado, Miss Atara Parkinson. Welcome back to Radiant Mom Rising. Today I'm with Atara. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mary.
I'm excited to have this conversation. So let's get started. If you'll just introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Atara Parkinson, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. So mental health, right? And I love this world. I've been practicing for 14 years. And also in the more recent years, I have started incorporating some physical health into my work because it's so important that we're not treating the body and mind separately. They are interconnected. And I think in our culture, we are used to separating them, right? And even beyond that, we have like a specialist for every, category. And it is really important that we are looking at the whole picture of what's going on here. And so that's something I also do in my work and I'm super passionate about.
I'm excited to talk about this because you're right. There's a lot of issues going on in the world today. And these are conversations right here that I feel is so important. And I've been bringing a lot to the show.
Mm.
So let's start first. Also, your story, your journey, like of what you've been through in life that's led you even down this path to help in the way that you do.
Yes, absolutely. So my first is kind of twofold. The first part is after my graduate work, it was around 2013, 14. I had been running myself really ragged. I was completing my graduate work. I was working full time and then doing what we call practicum, which is like our kind of an internship, if you will, right? So practicing in the field. And both of my positions were really intense populations. And so coming out of that, my body just completely crashed. It just gave out. And when I say that, what I mean is as a 24 or 25-year-old, I couldn't get out of bed for more than 2 hours at a time without feeling completely exhausted and having to get back into bed. I had to let go of a couple of my jobs and scale down. And I was like, what is happening? What is this? And and also we were planning a wedding. So that probably wasn't help. Yeah, that was a healthy thing. So I got, my first big kid job, medical insurance. Great. I can go to my doctor with this. And so I went to see my allopathic doctor and he's like, okay, we're going to run some labs. I was super excited because we're going to get some answers. And a couple weeks later, he calls me, come on in and basically tells me there's nothing wrong. And I went, no, there's something definitely wrong. And he kind of shrugs and basically says, well, eat some more greens. And I think I laughed out loud because I was on a raw vegan diet at that point, trying to just figure out what to do. So I was like, that is not helping. That's not helping the situation. So thankfully, by the grace of God, got connected to and some great people who helped point me in the direction of this doctor who was previously worked at Kaiser Allopathic Medicine, but went, this is not the way to heal people. What we do is emergency medicine, and that there's nothing wrong with that. There's a time and a place for that. Yesterday, we took our neighbor to emergency medicine. He cracks his skull open. Like it's important.
Of course.
Yeah, we value that. However, we're not healing the body, right? In those instances, we're responding to something. And so that really got me on this journey to seeking out what was my body trying to tell me. And what it was telling me was, as we did some testing, that my neurotransmitters, the parts of my brain that are communicating for fight or flight were through the roof. They were literally so elevated on the chart, you couldn't see where they ended. And my calming neurotransmitters were non-existent. They were like so burnt out. Yeah. So it was like, no wonder I was so exhausted because I was constantly in this anxiety state all the time. We also tested my sleep and I was waking up 17 times a night. So that will also leave you exhausted. Hey, if you've had a newborn, right?
Right.
Moms have, yeah, you know that experience. And so I was in that state. And so we did some supplementation. We did some food changes, started doing an ancestral diet. If you're familiar with Weston A. Price, started eating that kind of lifestyle. That was my first fold of health. Then fast forward a couple of years later, we had baby number one, and it was a beautiful experience. Stressful, long labor, and he ended up swallowing merconium, and so he was in the NICU. So also traumatic, right? That's not the way you imagine a birth going. And this then led to, and let me backtrack a little bit, minerals, which we'll get into, were already depleted previously. And then you lose 10% of your mineral stores during pregnancy, more in breastfeeding. And so I was already depleted and then became even more depleted in my minerals, which are protective during pregnancy. And so this led to postpartum anxiety, which for me did look like some anxiety symptoms, but what was most obvious for me was the rage. And I had never been and I have never been an angry person.
Don't seem to
Um,
be.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And
You
my
don't strike
energy
me
was
out
so
as like you do not strike
positive.
me as someone like that.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for the feedback. Yes. Yeah, I think I'm pretty grounded in that, but I was, like, really surprised, right? What is happening? And I was very short-tempered. I was take my husband's poor head off at every little thing, completely overwhelmed. I had a lot of anxiety around his sleep schedule, so very hyper focused on that and very paralyzed by decision making. You know, do can we go to this place? And I would run through, right? I think a lot of moms can identify with this. Run through this list of can I manage that? What if he needs to eat? Oh my gosh, what if he has a blow up? Wait, what if he starts crying? What if he needs a nap? Right. And then the list goes on and on. So I think that happens for a lot of moms too. And not to say that some of that to some degree isn't normal and that doesn't happen, but it's definitely was exacerbated by my low mineral stores. So that is how I got so passionate and why I think it's so important to address, especially mamas and not even, I mean, pre-baby, pre-pregnancy, but also postpartum and beyond, because we set the tone in the household. And if we're not okay, we cannot create an atmosphere that is ideal for our family and our values.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And so with your discovery on and what you've learned, what's like some things that you have realized that moms can do in those
Yeah.
times to help increase like their minerals and things like that? What have you discovered?
Yeah, beautiful. Great question. So I love this because it doesn't have to be so complex. I think in the natural health world, we get
Yeah.
really confused or really can overwhelm ourselves. And so
Yeah.
what I'd say is go back to some of those basics of, for example, whole food. Focus on getting whole foods in your diet. One of the things that really helped me after I learned with baby number 2 and 3 and 4 is meal prep. Right? Get either a group ask for meal prep as a gift, get some of your close friends or family members, if you have, together and get some healthy whole food in that freezer so you can just pull and go as you're in that newborn phase, right? That 4th trimester. There's also wonderful food services now that do really healthy food for that
Mhm.
period.
Excuse me.
That would be one. A lot of the minerals that we talk about are available through food sources. So one specifically being potassium.
Oh,
Potassium is super important. And actually, let me go through what we call the crucial four, which is magnesium, potassium, sodium, and calcium. Okay. Magnesium is a little, can be a little harder to get through our food sources. Magnesium is one the only one actually that I'd say to supplement with. But you could also do transdermal, so throwing magnesium flakes in your kiddo's bath in the evening, and then you just soak your feet right along with them, and then you're absorbing that magnesium as well, and double duty. Your kids are also getting it, right? That's beautiful. And I take an oral supplement of magnesium. So that's one. Let's go back to potassium.
mhm.
Potassium is also great, and most 98% of Americans are deficient in potassium. So another really crucial one. And potassium is my favorite is sweet potatoes or regular potatoes, very high sources of potassium. And what I do for sweet potatoes is I'll make, 4 or 5 in one batch, and then I'll put it in a Tupperware for the week. And then I'll
Yeah.
pull one out, every couple days in the morning, slap some high quality grass fed butter on there, salt and pepper, bingo, right? We're happy, we're content with my protein for the day. Bacon is another really great source of potassium. Yes, I know who doesn't want to be told eat more bacon,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely. Okay.
I'll
Yes.
take that.
Exactly. And there's a reason, right, that we love and crave bacon. Really high in potassium, really high in B vitamins. Both of these are super nourishing for our body and help, give us energy, help wake us up. So, we think of these and when I was saying ancestral traditional eating, this is what I'm talking about, right? Eggs and bacon is a traditional meal in the morning
Yeah.
for a reason. Intuitively, if we're connecting to our food and how it makes us feel, we're going to pick up on, I really like that. It gives me energy. It makes me feel good, right? All of these concepts.
Absolutely, and that's wonderful, and, this is the thing I see with moms and that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. I know I have a problem with
Mhm.
it, It's time. It's we're such an and we live in such a world now where everything is rush, rush, rush and
Mhm.
go, go, go. And so it deprives us from that ability, I feel like, to take the time to make these meals. Take the time, which is why I love your concept of meal preps. And honestly, if you think about it, I mean, I've given my kids reheated eggs before and
Yeah.
they liked it. So I mean, even if you're at a point where you're like, okay, mornings are already going to be a little bit of a crazy thing.
Mhm.
All right. So why on a Sunday you cook enough where you can put a little aside and then
I
there you
love it.
go. You can warm it up in the morning and go. Because
Yeah.
what I hate about that is you had that concept a lot of times where we feel so rushed. We end up grabbing the easy stuff,
Mhm.
like
Totally.
the pack of crackers or
Right.
the Pop-Tart or something that's not healthy, but it's
Yeah.
easy, it's quick, and then we're depriving our not just ourselves, but even our kids
Mhm.
of a nutritional breakfast. And so, yeah, I think that's fantastic and a great piece of advice for anyone listening who is consumed in that busyness to just
Mm.
stop and think about, like, my husband, for instance, he on Sundays especially will make a big dinner that will
Mhm.
last for a couple days. So now
Love
we already know our evenings are kind of crazy. So it's like now we don't have to worry about cooking something. And then midweek it's a little bit more relaxed. So we'll
Yeah.
find something else that we can cook. Well, he cooks and I just sit there and look pretty. So
You do a great
I
job, Mary.
know, right?
Great
Yeah,
job.
yeah. I love it. I'm very
I love
spoiled. But
that.
yeah, I know. But that's the thing though. Like, and he'll do that. But
Mhm.
it's a great way, but thanks to him, we get a nice home cooked meal, and I feel like that's missing a lot in
Mhm.
society today.
Yeah.
Well, and not just that, the prices of groceries is ridiculous now, so
Yeah.
it's like it makes it easier for people to spend the money on these processed foods
Yeah.
that are, it I understand it. I'm there too. I really do, but it's also like something I'm really working on to be
Mhm.
more mindful of what we're putting in ourselves and into our kids. My husband's very anal about the healthy foods and stuff, which is very helpful.
Mhm.
So it's wonderful to see the simplicity though,
Yeah.
like you're sharing about like
Yeah.
these little basic steps that we can take to bring ourselves back to our wholeness. Because it
Exactly.
is connected, our mind and our bodies. And so,
Right.
like exercise, it doesn't
Gotta
have
move.
to be a
Yeah.
crazy 1 hour gym exercise, right? It could
No.
be like a 20, 15-minute thing you do just
Yeah.
daily to get your body moving, to do something. And it really makes a difference. It
Yeah.
really helps mentally more than
Big
anything.
time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Hey, mama. I know what it's like to feel like you're just going through the motions, showing up for everyone else, but wondering, what about me? You have dreams, you have a purpose, and I truly believe you're meant for more than just surviving the day. That's why I'm offering something really special, a free Radiant Mom breakthrough session with me. This is just a heart centered conversation where we get to the root of what's been keeping you stuck and help you find real clarity on your next steps. And if by the end of our time together, we both feel like I can support you further on this journey, we can talk about that, but no pressure, no expectations. My goal is for you to walk away with a renewed sense of direction and confidence to take action now. So, if you're ready to shift things in your life, go grab your free session using the calendar link in the show notes before spots fill up. I'd love to connect with you. All right, now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because movement is also so foundational, and you're absolutely right. One of the things I'm doing to get creative is we're buying a walking mat because we have harsh winter up in Montana. You don't want to walk when it's -10 out. So we're buying a walking mat, and what I'm planning to do is I have the graciousness of wonderful clients that don't mind me walking in a session. And then boom, I get to multitask. Yeah. And I can
Yeah.
walk during a session, get my steps in for the day. And then also, yeah, it doesn't have to be a big thing. Gentle movement is wonderful and really changes everything for the brain and the body. And yes, it makes us feel so much better. I know when I walk and I am connected with the world around me, I feel more at ease. I feel
Yeah.
more peaceful. Yes. And sometimes too, I'll be honest, I'm not always able to get out by myself. Ideally, that's happening,
Yeah.
but sometimes the kids come, and my kids are at ages now where they can ride their bike or scooter, and I push the littlest in a stroller, and I'm
Yeah.
still getting that movement in even while yelling, "Get out of the street," right?
Yeah.
Coming. But, sometimes I think moms, we ideally would love, right? This
Yeah.
hour at the gym or this hour of
Yeah.
uninterrupted. Yeah, and it just might not be the season. That's what I talk a lot about too with clients is what season are
Yeah.
you in, right?
Yeah.
There's a season where you're not going to have uninterrupted workouts. And how can we relate to that in a way that we have radical acceptance? And we say, well, great, that's just a season that I'm in, and that's going to be okay. And it's not going to be that way forever. I promise. As
Right.
someone, my youngest is 2, someone coming out of that, I promise, we've been in that for the last 8 years of constant needs, constant doing everything. And it won't be like that forever. It took my therapist to talk me into paper plate. And this was I had this we were arguing about dishes, my husband and I, over and over because we didn't have a dishwasher at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And my therapist looked at us and goes, "Is there a reason you're not using paper plate?" And I went, "Well, yeah, because the environment and we can't and this is that." And she said, "Maybe it's just a paper plate season." And I went, "Oh, whoa," right? Like, big light bulb for me. Like, yes, for this time period,
Yeah.
maybe we can just make this accommodation or
Mhm.
switch, right? So again, finding those fundamental things for your
Yeah.
body that you feel such an impact and change on that then reverberates out into your life and household.
Exactly, and, like, I love how you talked about that walking mat, like, so for me,
Mhm.
being someone who worked in an office a lot of my life, I, felt the hip issues already that
Oh,
coming in, and I'm only in
yeah.
30s, and I'm like, "Oh lord, I don't wanna be I don't wanna be suffering like, like I see my mom waking up with hip pains and things. I just
Mhm.
don't wanna be like that." So one of the
Yeah.
things that I love is I had got a lift for my keyboard, so now I stand at my desk. I do not
Okay.
sit anymore, and so
Yeah.
things like that too just makes such a difference in just standing during your day
Yes.
compared to always sitting if there's anyone out there who's, like, got office work, for instance, and maybe your desk is low and you don't have that, they do have those keyboard lifts, so I don't know if
Mhm.
there's ways you can figure that out. I also worked at an office, thankfully, that had the higher desk where I could sit
Mhm.
or stand,
Oh,
so I would
good.
try to, but things like that, like you say, make such a difference. I mean, I sometimes I'll be on the phone with my mom, and I'll literally just walk laps around my bar area just
Yeah,
to get my steps in while I'm talking to her. So it's
for
like you
sure.
don't realize these little things we can do that just is helping our bodies just to keep up because you hear those people, you see, like I know my husband always says all the time, and other people say this all the time. It's like if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yes.
And it's so true because you'll see, like, those older people making themselves, like, mow their own yards and do things like that because they
Mhm.
know that if they don't keep using it, they're gonna lose it. They're not gonna have the abilities to walk anymore. They're gonna be hurting all the time.
Yeah.
And so that really starts now. Like, we
Mhm.
take it for granted. Like, we really take our lives and our bodies for granted that, "Oh, we'll be fine. We'll get to it eventually," whatever, but then it shows up, and then you have the arthritis, you have the pains, and it
Mhm.
just takes that much more work for us to get it back. Not that it's not possible, but if we can start now having these conversations and taking these little steps to prevent ourselves from getting that chronic illness, those chronic pains, the chronic stuff that's going to chronic diseases that a lot of us are suffering with today,
Mhm.
it's every little thing we do now,
Yeah.
relates to that, will lead us to that. So it is so important that we really take a step back because it's not just about us, it is about our kids.
Mhm.
Think about what we're doing to them already
Yes.
and what we're and that matters for them and what they're gonna
Mhm.
grow up into and the habits that they're gonna form and the beliefs that
Mhm.
they're gonna form. And I think it's all correlated. And
Mhm.
I love this. I love having these talks right here. And I would also like to jump into you're a marriage counselor, right?
Yes,
So yeah, I love that because I feel like that's another topic that's not really talked about a lot, really, is the
Mhm.
marriage aspect of it. So what's some of the things in your experience that you've seen as far as struggles in marriages and,
Mhm.
ways that you've helped couples to come together and strengthen the
Yeah.
conflicts that they have?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot especially around baby and postpartum,
Yeah.
there's a big shift in I'll use the word like how we're relating. How we're relating
Yeah.
to this this new life, right? This new little person that's been brought in. And what we say in family systems is anytime there's an entrance or an exit, the system is thrown into chaos. The system being the family, right? So anytime a new person is added to the system, we all have to shuffle and reconfigure. Anytime there's an exit in the system, someone passes, someone leaves, the system has to shuffle and reconfigure. So that's a period of chaos. Okay. And in that, we can go two directions. We can either come together in the chaos and figure it out, or we can drive and have a lot of disconnection in that period. And so that's really what I love, helping couples pre-baby, ideally. We always talk about like premarital. I even say pre-engagement counseling. Thank you, Dad. He taught me that years ago. He's like, even before you got a ring on it, because you're committed, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you're already committed to this. So do some of that work together, figure each other out, talk about these things. I feel like some of it is what we don't know, we don't know. So when we don't have a baby, we don't even know what some of those struggles that we're going to face. And those are some of the things that come up. So working with someone pre-baby that does know and knows the questions to ask can be super helpful as they prepare for that new life coming in. A great example is I brought up sleep earlier, and I'll bring that up again. Sleep for us, we didn't really talk a lot about what that would look like. We didn't really make a plan. And I'm going to use the word plan very lightly here, because you think often I'm going to do it one way, and then baby comes in the picture and it totally changes. But that's something that we really, you as mama, you get really sleep deprived and you need a break. And my husband at the time was working. And so it was really difficult. I felt this pressure that like he needs to sleep because I'm home all day, but then that really contributed, right, to some of the postpartum anxiety and instability. We know that sleep is connected to mental health, right? And so asking for support, knowing how to get it. And I'm gonna say to support, not just from our partner or spouse, but from your village.
Mm.
This is the time. If there was ever a time to ask for help or support, this is it, friends.
Yes.
And so reaching out, maybe it's a mother-in-law, maybe it's a friend coming over and saying, can I hold the baby while you do the dishes? Or even better, why don't you sit there and hold the baby while I do the dishes for you? Being able to accept that help, that's something I'll admit I was not good at.
Yeah.
And that I really learned along the way, that to say yes when support is offered, or even to know how to ask for the support that you need, can be so relieving for us as the mom that's going through a lot of change. In other cultures, Mary, they are not isolated as we are. They live in a community or in a multi-generational home where some of that support is naturally built in. And we are a highly individualistic culture where there's this attitude. I know I had it of I should be able to handle this. I should be able to do this by myself. And I think those should, I joke with clients, well, you're shoulding all over yourself, right? And, it's not
Yeah.
helpful. And
Mm-mm.
how can we find a new way to relate to
Yeah.
how we view ourselves and how we view help? So disconnection in marriage is huge in this time period. And again, some of it relates to how mom relates to baby and this role shift, and maybe how dad does, because inevitably it looks different. And so I think a great conversation for mamas too is this transition that we also don't talk about, from maiden to mother,
Yeah.
right? Our identity as an individual person shifts majorly. We are
Yes.
no longer this, I'll use words like carefree, right? Focused on fun,
Yeah.
right? When I was in my early 20s, it was all about me. It was all about what fun am I going to create in my life? Where do I get to be present, right? What experience am I going to have? And then when we become a mother, that is no longer not a bad thing. It's just no longer the focus. And there's a grieving process that happens for moms in there. And to be able to acknowledge that, to properly grieve, that's something as a society too, because we're so fast paced. We don't have ritual. We don't have this, often we don't feel like we have this time or space
Yeah.
to grieve this loss of this woman I used to be, because I'm no longer her. I'm no longer this maiden. And again, that's okay. But if I can give myself proper time to grieve that, it really is helpful. And then for my partner to understand that, right? Because often, at least I'll speak to my experience. My experience, I know he really didn't understand, what was happening in that
Yeah.
that time period. And so to be able to first identify it and then to be able to communicate it is a whole
Yeah.
other thing. So sometimes that's helpful to do with someone else, right? Like a therapist or a coach in that space with you. Sometimes you can get to it by yourself and that's okay too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about figuring out whatever can work to make you guys get through it. Because if you really love each other, at the end of the day, if you don't find a way to communicate it and be able to hear too, and listen to each other's sides, because they have a, just the right to feel their feelings and to
Yeah,
see things from their perspective too, even if we may not agree with it.
right.
It is what they're experiencing, it's what they're feeling,
Mhm,
and their
mhm.
feelings matter too, so it's
Yes.
really important. Like, I know that that's something that's really kept me and my husband very strong through everything.
Mhm,
Because when I went through both of my our kids together, I went through
mhm,
postpartum really bad, and I
mm.
wish I had known everyone like I do now.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't
Yes.
find this until well after my postpartum.
Mhm,
So, I was very
mhm.
much alone, and,
Yeah.
he was as supportive as he could be, but like you say, as a man, they don't really understand this. He's never dealt with depression, which I find
Right?
crazy in my opinion, because I feel like everyone can consider, right? But he's never struggled with that like I
Mhm,
have. And
mhm.
then I dealt with suicide in my past, and then having that postpartum especially,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
my God, the thoughts that would haunt me was horrific. And it was a
Mhm,
really hard time. I had no therapist, I had no coach, I didn't have any of that. So it was really a challenging time. So it's another reason why I'm passionate about having these conversations and
yes.
helping moms, because I don't want any mom to ever feel that way. I do not want moms to feel alone or defeated or like, oh, I'm going to stay here. Like, this is it. This is going to be my new me. Like, no, that's not
Mhm.
how it really does end. It is a season. It's a tough
Yeah.
season, and which is why you shouldn't do it alone. Why
Yes.
you should reach out to people who are going to be there to support you, but
Mhm.
it is still feels like eternity while you're in it. And I get that
Absolutely. Yeah.
completely. And
Uh-huh.
it's not easy, but this is what I encourage anyone who's listening
Mhm.
to expose yourself, put yourself out
Mhm.
there, and find those people who are going to support you during those times. Share your stories too. Like, this is why we're
Mhm.
doing this. Sharing our stories helps us all realize that we're not alone. We're not the only
Yes.
ones who felt this way, went through this,
Mm.
and there are ways to get past it and not stay stuck in it.
Yes. I love what you're saying. I'm going to bring up a book that I love called The Soul of Shame
Ooh.
by Dr. Kurt Thompson. Oh, it's a great read. Yes, pick it up if you can. It's fairly easy to get through. Oh, and I will preface it's a Christian worldview, so just FYI. But he talks about that the predecessor to shame, what comes before shame, is doubt. And I think for moms, especially first time mom, maybe even sometimes second time or third times, right? We start to doubt like, can I do two? Can I do three? How am I going to manage everybody's needs? Right. And the first time around, we have this doubt often. Am I a good mom? Can I be a good mom?
Yeah.
Right. Which leads to a feeling of shame. And then shame leads to isolation. And so exactly what you said, the tendency, the thing we want to move toward is hiding ourselves, is kind of going into the shell. Please no one notice me in here. Just leave me alone with my my thoughts and my shame. But the antidote obviously then would be connection,
Hmm.
right? Connecting, whether again it's with a good friend, it's with a community, or it's with a therapist that is supporting you through this, or even with your spouse sometimes.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how the one thing we need the most is the one thing we tend to avoid when we're
Yeah.
in those situations? Isn't that a
Yep.
shame? That right there. It is. I mean, it is. It's sad though that we avoid the one thing that can
Mhm.
help us the most in those
Yeah.
times of need, because you're right, because of the doubts, because of the shame,
Yeah.
because we're embarrassed, because we feel guilt, because we feel like we shouldn't. The shoulds
Mhm.
again. I shouldn't
Yep.
be feeling this way. I shouldn't be doing this way. And you feel like it's only you. Like, I'm like, it's only me. I'm the only one. I'm the crazy one. I'm the I'm the bad
Yes.
guy or whatnot. But
Right.
it's so not. And this is why this is such a powerful movement, and
Mhm.
really awesome people like you. We need more people like you to help those see the better side of things, to understand that there are ways out of this. There's
Mhm.
ways to prepare even. Like, that's another thing
Yes.
too.
Yes.
We don't really allow ourselves to even think about preparing. Not saying we have to be like a
Mhm.
overly work, because like you say, the paranoia we have as moms already of like, oh my God, what if this happens? What if this happens? Oh, what? Yes, that's overwhelming. So okay, fine. Let's find a healthy plan, right? That can help
Yeah.
us to feel more prepared in a healthy way that so we don't have to we can put that on the shelf. We can put that
You're
on the shelf
totally
and
right.
no longer worry about that, right?
Yes. The what ifs
Mhm.
are what we talk about with anxiety clients. Like, what if this goes wrong? What if this happens? What if I can't handle this? What if? Well, our brain is designed to be a what if simulator. It's made to do that. Where we run into problems is when we can't take, you mentioned the word plan, we can't take that what if and then put a plan with that what if. That's where we get stuck. And so
Okay.
you're absolutely right. Okay, maybe you had really severe postpartum with your first. Okay. And you go, I would prefer not to have that. What if that happens again? What if I'm so, and then I have two people dependent on me? Whatever. And the brain starts to go off. Okay, hold on. Stop. How can I put a plan into place? It's not going to guarantee, but it's
Yeah.
going to set myself up for the best possible result that I can control.
Yeah.
Right? And then even if with all of that, something, my mood still is really dysregulated, here's the plan of what I'll do in that situation. And that feels a lot more empowering. That calms those what ifs and makes us feel like we're more in the driver's seat and that we
Mhm.
have an idea of how we're going to handle the situation.
I love that. And another thing too is like with the what ifs, like
Mm.
why don't I challenge anyone listening to switch it on yourself.
Yeah.
So what if it turns out to be amazing? What if you don't have that experience? What if
Yes.
it really is everything and even better than you could ever imagine? Sometimes it's
Mhm.
also nice to like reframe and turn it around and put it in a positive light. We tend to always look at the negative, and it's part of our upbringing. A lot of times, it's part of our conditionings and stuff. So, how best to switch it? Well,
Yeah.
then catch yourself when you're saying it, and then try something
Love
like, well,
it.
what if it's amazing? Well, what if it does work out? What if I
Absolutely.
do make that successful thing? Or what if I have a great pregnancy this time? You
Yes.
know? So that's also something I think would be very helpful and helping you get
Mhm.
through those because you're right. Those thoughts, man, our thoughts alone are so haunting.
They're so the beat's a
Oh my
whole game in and of itself,
yes,
right?
exactly. I mean, just alone
Yeah.
having to battle your own thoughts in this world is
Mhm,
hard enough.
mhm,
And then having to
mhm,
go out there and deal with society and everyone else
mm.
and all the things, it's like, this is why we need to come together and
Yes,
strengthen each other and uplift
yes.
each other because I mean, enough with it. Enough with it.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
So,
And connection, I love what you're saying because connection online is beautiful and amazing, and I have found some beautiful people you, Mary, online, right? We
yeah,
connected
right.
online, and and I'm going to say social media also has the dark side, and
Yeah.
particularly in mothering. What this ends up looking like is seeing images of, "Oh, she is doing that fun fall craft. Why can't I get it together enough to make something or do something?" Right? All of this comparison. And so I'm going to say too, connecting online is wonderful, but have an and the and is connect with people in your community in the real world because you get to see reality. And reality is I might look like I have it all together, but I got a pile of laundry sitting in the corner over there. Right? Or
Yep.
my
Yep.
breakfast dishes are still in the sink, right? My kids' beds aren't made,
Yep.
and on, right? That's the reality. And that's not, of
Yeah.
course, something that people are going to show you on the
Mm-mm.
social media world. We get the highlight. And I wanted to add one thing too to the what ifs. I loved your version. And I'm going to say mine too, which is a what if to what is.
Mm.
Because so the what if takes us to a future thinking, right? And it removes us from the present. But the what is brings us back to right now. So saying what is right now, I have a beautiful, healthy pregnancy. What is that I have support of my husband and he's doing wonderfully, maybe helping me meal prep. What is that I do have a plan. Right? And that can also stop that really heavy cycle of the what if spiral.
And I love that because that whole what if scenario is what I call or what I've heard is called imaginary suffering. And
Yeah.
we do this to ourselves so much where we constantly get an anxiety and worry about something that hadn't even happened yet, may not even happen at all. And yet we
Mhm.
suffer and feel it as though it's literally happening to us now.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, we cannot keep doing that to ourselves. So, that's a beautiful thing and a great way because ultimately, I think we all need to work on being more present. We are
Mhm.
so focused on like the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and what
Mhm.
when is
Mhm.
this going to happen? When is that? I can't wait for this. I can't wait for that. But we miss out on all the amazing stuff just right here, right now in front of us that we're so lucky to have. And that is again what I'm hoping to help people to stop and think about because
Yes.
we really
Yes.
do have so much great stuff now that we need to be grateful
Mhm.
for,
Mhm.
because we're not even promised tomorrow anyways. Like,
Mhm.
but the cool thing is we get to still wake up each day and take action towards it. It's fine to, keep having that vision of like where I want to go while also
Mhm.
appreciating the now and then just taking steps where I can to make it happen. And it will
Yeah.
come. It will happen. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I Lord knows, when I started this journey, I didn't expect to be where I'm at right now, and I can only imagine where I'm going to go. But I'm just learning right now to just enjoy my life where I'm at too.
Yeah.
And it's been a great shift for me because I've never done this before. Like I
Mhm.
literally have always been that person who was so worried about the future and about
Mhm.
and also the lack of. Gosh, was I bad about that? I don't have enough money. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have the nice house. Blah blah blah. And because of that, all I kept attracting was all the lack in my life.
Mhm.
And in having this realization, I want to share it with anyone out there because I'm telling you, shifting from that mindset, seeing things in this perspective of
Mhm.
realizing how abundant I already am as I take action towards even more abundance,
Mhm.
game changer. I mean, life changing. Seriously, it's not and I love it because it's like people just don't realize how big of a deal this is for themselves and how like we overcomplicate this stuff. We make life so much harder than it has to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. And
Right?
if I'd say if you're really struggling with that, because I
Yeah.
feel a lot of clients that struggle with that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
what I'm going to say is that is the place, and that is my joy in my work. Is if you're struggling with something up here, like you're saying to yourself as you're listening, I just can't. I can't. There's something there feels like there's a block. There's something that it won't allow me to look around and say, "Oh, I'm thankful I have a roof over my head. I'm thankful, my house isn't flooding with water." Right? I had some friends in North Carolina that were
Me?
really affected. Yeah, yeah, a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago. Yes. And I'm thankful that we're safe, right? I'm thankful that I have a working car, right? And on and on. But if you're struggling with that, this is to loop back around to the beginning of this conversation where minerals are so important because minerals are literally producing light in the body. And what I mean by that is they're making our neurotransmitters spark. When they communicate, if you've ever seen a picture, it's like these two little, imagine like microphone pieces. And as they communicate, there's a spark that happens right in between them. That's light. That process cannot happen without minerals in your body. And that is why you cannot make that leap from this mental space right into being positive. And so that's where I'm going to say to start then with your minerals. Get magnesium on board quickly. That
Love
was
it.
my first game changer. And if you don't respond well, get more potassium. We can get into that if you work with me, right?
Yes.
But magnesium and then get your potassium and food-based calcium, like good quality dairy, right, is great for you. That is tied to rumination. You kind of mentioned this earlier, spiraling or staying stuck on a thought and thinking it over and over and over, especially in the future tense. They said you need some good solid calcium in your body to help your brain stop doing that. And again, that's what I'm so passionate about. If you're struggling mentally with getting through something, support the body and watch that mental health change so quickly.
Yeah, it's becoming more the research, the data that's coming out nowadays is huge.
Yes,
It's
it's
they're
so
just the
cool.
studies is amazing how
Hmm.
of course they don't unfortunately in our healthcare they don't want
Yeah.
you to know that because pharma
Yeah.
runs it all. But I mean, that's
Right.
why we're talking about this stuff because
Yeah.
we're done with that. We're done
Yeah.
having that stuff,
Oh, so
poison our
cool to see,
bodies over.
right?
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like so I thank you so much for sharing all of this because it's such
Mhm.
amazing steps and things like anyone listening right now can just start doing today to really help turn that around. And if you need further help, Atara's here for you. Go find her,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
actually and tell us a little bit about where's the best place to find you as well.
Yeah. So even if you have a simple question like what magnesium, right? So the two places that I send people first are my social medias because if you can't afford to start doing coaching or therapy, there's free information there. There's lots of free, and I can always connect you to resources that you need. So you can find me on Facebook. My business page is just my name, Atara Parkinson. And on Instagram, I'm at atara.parkinson. And if you want to reach out directly through, direct message, or you can email me, and my email is ataraparkinson@protonmail.com. And my favorite thing is a 12-week program. And then I'm meeting with you one-on-one once a week. Okay. And we're going to start with, we're bio individual. So, like, not everybody's body is the same. And what's happened for you, right, is going to be different than what's happened for me. For example, I actually had a male client a couple of weeks ago, and he was very, very, very low energy. And so I didn't start him with magnesium. I started him with, we can get into it, but oysters and beef liver, because I won't get into the details, but that's great for making energy in the body. Okay. So, it's very individual how I'm going to approach your situation. And so we are going to build over that 12 weeks. We're not just throwing everything, and we're not just starting everything at once. Because if you start taking 5 things and you feel amazing, we want to know why, right? What thing in that 5, things that we added to your regimen made you feel a lot better? And so that's why we work together over 12 weeks to slowly add in something. And some of this is lifestyle, right? Like you're saying, movement, getting morning sunshine on the eyes. Maybe it's getting enough sleep that we're working on. Again, I'm a therapist, so some of it is trauma processing using a somatic technique called brain spotting. And then some of it is talking about your nutrients, your lifestyle that we started with meal prepping. Hey, I love fried chicken, Atara, and I don't want to give up fried chicken. I got you, girl. Here's what we're going to do, right? We're
Yes.
going to make fried chicken in a healthy way. So sometimes it's just tweaking the things that we already have in our life to add nutrients, right? To make it sustainable and beneficial for our body instead of continuing to destroy.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. And anyone, this is exactly what you need. I mean, because it does take that support. We will
Mhm.
talk ourselves out of things all the time, right?
True.
There is no shame in getting some help to keep
Yeah.
you on, on your toes because we need that. And there is nothing wrong with that. That is actually what we're here for. So I love it. And I was always open up the floor, of course. Is there any final piece of advice
Mm.
or anything you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yes, Mary, I love that. And I think start small. Start with one thing. Don't feel like you have to take on this whole, revamp my entire life. It's too overwhelming, right? And as moms, we already have enough on our plate. And that's what I really pride myself in is I'm not going and working together, we're not going to try to add 5 million things. If you can't meal prep right now, okay, we'll figure it out, right? We'll talk about what Costco buys can you get that would still be nourishing. For example, was it yesterday? The day before, I was lazy. I was like, we're having a snack plate, right? And we threw salami and cheese and pickles and some fruit on a plate. And that was the meal for the day because I was tired. I had a long week. So if you can do this, start with simple things, right? Sometimes if the mind isn't cooperating, start with the body, and then we'll get the minds, willing to be a willing
Yeah.
participant after we maybe it's just adding in some magnesium, maybe it's getting more potassium in your diet. And then the mind will start to get on board. And that usually happens in the 12 weeks too, which is so cool to watch.
I bet it is. Oh, I
Yeah,
bet it is. I love to
such an
see ain't
honor.
nothing like
Yeah.
seeing someone transform and to reach their goals and to just see them like just I even had 'em like right before this call, like I've been coaching this girl and just having her reach out and saying thank you again. Like
Mm,
you helped to give me this clarity. You helped me to feel I'm taking this action. I'm doing
the
this. And
best.
I'm like, oh,
Yes.
there's nothing more rewarding than that. And I'm like, I'm so blessed that I get to help you. Like that's how I look at it.
Mhm.
Like,
Same.
I'm grateful that
Yes.
I get to help you and see you and know that you are on such a good path. Keep it up, girl. You got this. Like, she's going to see. I'm so excited for her because she's just taken such big steps and it's a hard time for her, but she's going to see the beautiful ending of it. I can't wait to see her have that because I
Oh,
know it's hard what she's doing right now, but when she gets to the other side of seeing what life is like without
mhm,
the drugs, without the
mhm,
bad relationships.
mhm,
Oh, you're gonna be so grateful that she made this decision, and I feel so honored, like, honored to
mhm.
get to support
Same.
her through that because I've been there in my own ways, and I get to just
Mhm,
listen to her and hold space for her and just help her through that. And I think that's such a blessing. And I'm so grateful. And I think that people like you are wonderful. And I'm so excited to have had you. And I can't thank you enough for being part of my show.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Mary. What a great conversation. I knew it was gonna be, but it turned out
And
amazing. I love it.
I did too. I did too. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and
Thank
thanks again for being
you.
here.
Yeah, thanks so much.
What a great conversation. Here are the key takeaways from today's episode. Your mental health starts with your body. What you eat and how you move directly impact your mood, energy, and overall mental well being. Incorporating whole foods, proper minerals, and consistent movement can help you feel more balanced and resilient. Small changes lead to big results. That's something I always talk about here, but it's so true. Overhauling your diet overnight isn't realistic, but small intentional shifts like adding nutrient dense foods or prioritizing hydration can create lasting improvements in your health and make it a lot easier to make it sustainable. Meal prep doesn't have to be overwhelming. Atara shares simple meal prepping strategies to make healthy eating easier for busy moms. By planning ahead and keeping it simple, you can nourish yourself and your family without the stress. Your marriage needs nourishment too. For those of you who are married, the transition to parenthood can be challenging for relationships. Atara emphasizes the importance of open communication, small daily check-ins, and making time for connection, even in the busiest seasons, almost especially. Support is essential. You don't have to do it all alone. Whether it's leaning on your partner, asking for help, or seeking professional guidance, building a strong support system makes a world of difference. It's never too late to prioritize your well-being. No matter where you are in your journey, you can start today. Taking small, sustainable steps toward better health and relationships will not only benefit you, but also your entire family. Let that sink in. Be sure to get connected with Atara today and start your healthcare journey for you and your family. Also, if you're a mom in business and you're looking to make new authentic connections with other moms alike, then be sure to sign up for the upcoming monthly networking event, Mama Means Business, on April 22nd at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To grow your network, meet new mompreneurs, gain some insight, support, and just have a good time. There are limited spots, so be sure to grab yours now at eventbrite.com. Hope to see you there. I appreciate you all tuning in and would also greatly appreciate if you would share this with a fellow mom friend and leave us a review. Your continued support means the world to me. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Until next time, much love.